Hello, my name is Alvin Ouellet. I'm a visual artist. It's an honor to be here at the community television station of southern Berkshire County. And I'm presenting to you basically a journal of my work. I'm a visual artist who works in the mediums of paint, printmaking, digital art, and photography. And sometimes I will combine those processes together. I'm recently moved out to the Berkshires from the Boston area, where I worked at the Massachusetts College of Art as the studio manager of printmaking and also a full-time adjunct faculty member. I also studied at the Massachusetts College of Art in Boston. What I'm presenting to you today are a series of galleries that I've set up on my website. My website is www.alvinouellet.com. And I'm using my website to kind of walk you through some of the images that I've created out here in the Berkshires and also some of the work I've started some years ago that led me to where I am today. I'm fascinated with the built natural environment. The built environment that is created by humans is a manifestation of their ideas of home, shelter, and safety. Whereas a building built by humans is the same as a cocoon made by a moth, a place of shelter. And I'm an observationalist, and from a very young age began looking at the world around me and closely observing the light and forms and interactions of the two together. I'll bring you to my website and focus on galleries that give kind of an idea. Each gallery gives an idea of a direction I'm going with the visual environment. I have some very early pieces here that I started back when I was in college working from the figure. And in these various images are prints, lithographies, paintings, and drawings. And these very last images I have are recent works I've done in that same vein, working from the figure, here in Housatonic at the Muse with Figure on the River, which is a group of professional artists here in the Berkshires that meets every week to paint long poses from the figure. I'm finding here in the Berkshires there's quite a artist support group, and it's beneficial to be amongst other artists who have similar interests. Now, prior to coming here, I did a lot of painting down on the Cape, where I had lived for a number of years. And in this portfolio, I have a series of pieces that are done plein air, which is painting on location. It's one of my motifs. My work is often generated on site, on location, and then in the studio, I'll take and from the compositions I've created on site, create other compositions. So here I have a painting I did years ago on the Cape in Provincetown, and I'll take a painting like that into the studio and make a compilation. This painting is imagined based on that painting. This is an aerial view above the town that you wouldn't be able to see. You can't get this vantage point, and it's a compilation of paintings and drawings I did in the area. From time to time, I will take the work that I do plein air on site and bring it into the studio and create digital collages, and that's one of them. And another thing I do on location and as a matter of practice is I bend the perspective of the spaces to include more of the horizon and more of the environment around me, to kind of envelop the viewer with the image so it's more of a sense of being there. And many times I'll distort the environment in order to create a sensation of actual presence there. Other work that I do, for one summer I rented a studio in Gloucester and did a series of paintings there. These paintings are largely more than one scene. I'm actually turning and looking in two directions as I paint. Because it's on a flat plane, it has the appearance of being one continuous image, but I'm actually looking in one direction over at one half of the scene, painting that, then turning the canvas and looking the other way and including the other half of the scene. So that's the town of Gloucester across the harbor, and close to me here is a house that Edward Hopper painted, actually from the other side. So that was one of my interests of being there. He's one of my mentors. Then I will take, in this case, I took the compilation of various paintings I did there, and again, created an aerial scene above the town, one vantage point you wouldn't be able to get, basically, and recreated the scenes by a number of different paintings. I had about 12 paintings, and this encapsulates them all. Another, as I mentioned, I also work with the computer. For years I taught silkscreen and had to learn how to draw in Photoshop. Things changed greatly as I was working, and all of the work that we did photographically became digitized, and I went from analog to digital. And these are really a series of drawings that I did. They kind of speak for themselves. They're just drawings, learning myself how to work in Photoshop and to break color separations down in Photoshop and teach that to my students. But the medium itself really influences my work. Whatever medium I work in seems to change the approach that I have to it. And in this case, these are more imaginative drawings than they are observed drawings, in that I'm not working from life, I'm just working directly out of my head automatically. And in various forms and stages, they look very different from my paintings. And I actually appreciate that about them, and intend to work more that way as I go on. Another body of work that I did years ago was in Boston, and a number of these are done on site, landscapes and cityscapes that I've done on site. Some of these views don't exist anymore. For instance, this one between two buildings. But it was in the city, walking around, looking up and down at the large buildings, that started to make me want to expand the perspectives that I used in my work, to give that feeling of almost vertigo, looking up at a building or down at something. And it was in walking around the city and viewing these various buildings in their juxtaposition with the surroundings that I was able to start to feel the angles in the pieces and get a sensation of movement. Now, again, as I worked on these pieces, I went into the studio. Oops, excuse me. I lost it. There it is. And made a compilation piece that would be of various angles and such that I painted. This painting was done in the studio, and it's a vantage point you wouldn't be able to have naturally, so I had to invent it based on paintings and my observations around the city. And also, prior to coming out here, I also work in a number of interior scenes. And in this case, started to really want to use that same perspective that I gained outside walking around the city on the interiors, where I actually used the perspective to elongate and exaggerate distances. The distance in this house isn't as great as it appears in the piece. So using scale and distance and distortion as a way of evoking a more emotional piece. In this case, I'm actually turning my canvas around 360 degrees to create this image of the rooms around me in the house. And again, I took all of that together in every room of the house. I decided I needed to paint every room in the house all at once. So in this case, I dismantled the house and rebuilt it back together with each room. Other interiors that I painted were really directly from life, but still embodied a bit of a distortion of space. For instance, in this case, I'm really looking at the whole room at once, and it would be as if you were turning your head from one side to the other to see the peripheral spaces. So there's more than one vantage point at one time. This piece here is the drawing of this piece. The material here is actually a clear piece of Lexan, which is polycarbonate. And in this case, I actually did the drawing through the glass. So the distortion that's revealed here wasn't done by me. It was actually traced directly through the glass. And the glass creates a sensation of the space in front of you being rather large and pushes everything back. And that experience influences my work when I'm out not drawing through the glass. I still have this sensation of being able to distort and manipulate perspective in ways that evoke a sense of movement, that go beyond just a still life. And then that brings me to the Berkshires, where my very first show that I did was at the Realize Gallery in Adams, Mass. And I did what I do naturally. I walked around, looked at the sites, and decided to start to create a journal of the various buildings and landscape around town. Now, in this case, I started to, right in the middle of town, incorporate my ideas of distortion. In this case, I would say if you take a 360-degree circle and cut it up, this is about, 200 degrees. I'm looking up the street and down the street at the same time. The street itself is actually straight, but in my painting, it has the appearance of being curved. And part of that is my obsession of wanting to take it all in. I want more and more in my paintings. I don't want to leave anything out. So I create these distortions. This one's really based on a U shape. And what it does is it gives you more of a panoramic view, as though, again, you were looking from one side to the other. Hopefully that it comes out as being one entire image, but in actuality, it's actually a movement, and that gives some movement to the piece. Another thing I like to do is to paint nocturnes, and this is the Mohawk Theater in North Adams, Mohawk Cinema in North Adams, and I'm actually on this one, I drew through the glass straight through, which again accounts for the large scale foreground. I find that at night when you're painting, your eyes adjust to the darkness, and you actually find more color sometimes. This piece is a print And this is a monoprint painting. So basically, again, it's an aerial view of Mount Greylock and the town surrounding it, done on plexiglass, printed onto paper. And then down here is really a digital collage of the various paintings that are displayed in this gallery. All of the components of this digital collage are paintings that were just viewed in the gallery. So I will sometimes just want to create a different type of space. And the piling up of the imagery creates this more of an Asian perspective, of turned up perspective towards the viewer. And these are paintings of interiors from my home here in town. I'm in Adams, in the Berkshires. And in here, I just wanted to show a couple that incorporate the idea of destroying and then rebuilding the house, or deconstructing and constructing the house again to get various angles. This is a full 360-degree turn. I paint these paintings to be seen in all four directions. You could turn it any way, on either side, and it would still read properly. And here's another one where I literally just go around to various locations and different vantage points, literally just turning the canvas around and creating this space that's falling in on itself and turning as a means of creating, again, a sense of movement and life beyond just the straight still life. Now, in the Berkshires, there's so much to paint that I have a difficulty going around. I sometimes cannot choose, so I will, when it's hot, I'll go down to the water where it's cool. And one of those places is Peck's Falls in Adams, Mass, at the Greylock Glen. I've painted a number of paintings there. It's just, it's exhilarating to be outside painting and having the forces of nature knocking the painting around or blowing at you or challenging you. It makes your alertness and urgency to paint even greater. And I think it's a great influence for me. These are paintings in the water. I'm actually standing in the river, painting, looking up and down. Sometimes I'll go and just document the life of the trees. These are trees that I've painted fully together, and they'll fall down or fall apart, and I'll go back the next year and paint them again. The three trees were intact at one point here, and then the next season fell apart, and I painted them again up in the Greylock Glen. This is a more recent painting I did of the swamps in Lanesboro. I'm showing this painting. It's not really curved or curvilinear at all, but the attack on the paint and the way that the paint is applied is a little bit different for me, and it's more visceral and done all at one time. Many of the paintings I do of the buildings and environments, I do over a period of visits, 4 or 5 times sometimes. But these natural environment ones, I try to attempt to just paint it all in one session. And that brings us to the towns of the Berkshires. This is where I really explore the idea of the built and natural environment, and in this case, more of a landscape architecture, the way that the trees are planted around the buildings, the spaces between buildings where people exist. There's so many monumental forms of architecture out here, and the way they interact with the environment I find fascinating how everything is framed and enveloped in the natural environment. This is a pretty distorted piece in that I'm looking up and down the street, so it creates a distortion in terms of the perspective. And I would call it curvilinear perspective, which is based on the curvature of the eye, the full 360-degree turn, where the image is implanted and almost looks like it's on a reflective, convex mirror. And I will actually be on location painting in various spots, and I'm always intrigued with the setup and the piece and the painting as it's going along. I always document the drawing as I go. Sometimes I feel more satisfied with the drawing in its raw form than the final piece. This is a painting of my recently a studio I had in Adams of interior and exterior, and I'm looking forward to doing some of these this winter. As it starts to get cold outside, I still have a need to be painting the interior and exterior, so I'll combine them together and do a series from windows. And then this is a more visceral, one-shot, one-time painting. Alla prima, basically, is one of the terms used, where I'll just go out and attack the canvas with paint. And this is Natural Bridge in North Adams. And I'm also intrigued with some of these sculptured gardens, these landscape architecture from the past. This is the Mount, but out from the woods, because it's really how the building, how the Mount, the house interacts with the environment around it when you're looking through the natural environment. And again, the nocturnes that I do on location. This is Images Cinema in Williamstown. And painting at night is a challenge, but the longer you're out there, the better your eye gets at seeing. And the very last thing I will show you is a show I recently had at Images Cinema, where I just went full in order to create 360-degree representation or curvilinear perspective. So as I'm outside painting, I'm just turning the canvas in each direction as I turn myself around. So I'm looking behind me, in front of me, aside of me, in both directions, and pulling it together in order to create one representation. And again, as an overall view of them together, once again, I go into the studio in the wintertime, and from my studies, I create compositions such as these that, again, there is no vantage point outside that you can take for them. So that's the end of my gallery exposition. I would just like to take a minute to be grateful and thank Solo Creatives and the opportunity to come here to CTSB Television and give this presentation. I also have a great debt of gratitude to the Cultural Council of Northern Berkshires, who have supported me during 3 of the years that I've been here, which I appreciate, and the Mass Cultural Council, who throughout my career, over the years, I've been engaged with since the mid-'80s. And they've been supportive, and I have great appreciation for that. Also, I'm a member of the Guild of Berkshire Artists, who are a very supportive group of very avid, prolific professionals who paint constantly. We're engaged in a show right now we just hung at Art on Main in West Stockbridge, and that show starts today, the 30th of October, and runs to the 30th of November, and the hours are 11 to 4 Thursday through Sunday. And there's a group of plein air painters showing, and it's just a thrill to be among them, and I appreciate all the support from the artists, the institutions, and the groups in the Berkshires.